Everything's in, everything's in. I don't think so. Oh, yeah, get it. Get it. Let's go. Get fired up. Get ready. It's Friday. It's a special edition of this here Campbell's Rambles on the BCX, the Brian Campbell Experience. Raise the X if you get down like that, but raise yourself up on this Friday. Rainy on the East Coast up in this southern New England base of mine in suburban Connecticut, but it's Friday, May 9th, 2025. And normally, of course, you'd probably be tuning in at this time, 11 a.m. on the Easterns to the old MK, but obviously a scheduled change for this week with 2 days ago in the Wednesday UFC 315 pregame preview that we did with the Iceman Chuck Mindenhall. Still great viewing available for you. So check it out if you missed it. Watch it a second time, right? Right? What the heck's going on right there? So yeah, I figured I'd fill this hole, get back in your life, give myself an opportunity to speak in very exaggerated circles while you attempt to get your questions in, and maybe we solve the world's problems together. All right. Thank you very much. I mean, in life, is there anything a glass of AG1 can't fix? All right. Well, yeah, there you go. All right. Shout out to Lazy Bed. Yes, the fantastic 2023 tour t-shirt of My Morning Jacket is in the house. My Morning Campbell is here as well. It's morning somewhere, so good morning to all of you. My name is BC. I'm 46 years old, a father of two. I enjoy long walks on the beach, 90s NBA, 70s vinyl. And I like my combat sports, kind of how I like my gas station road food, just a little bit sloppy. So get fired up, get excited. We are, as John Anik would say, less than one sleep away from Montreal UFC 315. Get fired up for Saturday. There's a cornucopia of weird boxing that's going to be around. I think Tommy Fury is back, and he looked like he was juiced to the gills, baby, right? Wow. One of the many kind of oddball, weird boxing fights we have this weekend. But smoke them if you got them. 2-drink minimum. You know the rules. Enjoy your gas station hot dogs. If that's how you get down, just remember there is a boss at the end of that video game, and it's called the Black Liver. So enjoy responsibly. Thank you. All right. Yes, we're going to have plenty of time to get to your questions today, whether it's about UFC 315, the ongoing day-to-day soap opera that is the boxing business, and maybe even some life and entertainment questions in between. Shout out to you, the listener. I hope you're doing well. I hope you peeled yourself up off the canvas this morning with grace, joy, optimism, hope, maybe a little caffeine, whatever you got to do. Okay. Whatever gets you through your life, it's all right. Average Joe Art sliding in on a Friday morning. I mean, don't make me send you the link to join me right now. It's time. I think it's time for Average Joe to bring his face to the forefront of time and life and all of that. So shout out to Average Joe joining us. You can pick up one of those bully beat down Bilal Muhammad basketball jerseys, limited time edition. And Average Joe wants to help us launch that merch. We just need one man to get his ish together, and then we'll get that going up right there. So wow. Thank you for enjoying that intro. Of course, that is the band Head Change, the fantastic jam band out of Nebraska. And we're talking about my man, Anthony Weller on lead guitar, his boy Jacob on drums. They put together a heck of an intro. Average Joe Art obviously played a big role graphically as well. So when you got the best intro in all of one-man rambling podcasts on this globe, you tend to flex just Just a little bit, okay? Just a little bit. There we go. Are you excited about UFC 315? Look, it's a hardcore fan. It's a hardcore fight fans card, but it don't suck. I mean, if you hate women's MMA, and I understand where we're at in that life cycle right now, it's certainly not hot at the moment, but I really like the three major female matchups that are on this card. But I can understand if you hate that, you hate women's MMA, and you feel like Bilal is boring, or you feel like Jack Della ain't ready, or it's not his time, then yeah, I guess you could poo-poo it. It is on that continued arc of where UFC matchmaking is in 2025. But I've chosen to enjoy it. I'm fired up. I'm ready. I'm going to be excited. Dominic Cruz and DC are our analysts with JA this weekend. Let's get fired up. Let's get ready. Monticello, do you have anything intelligent to say? Women's MMA isn't hot, but Natalia Silva is. Well, that's Stephen T getting a little loose in turn 3 right there. Monticello's like, okay, this is why we might need to get Mikey up out of the bullpen to screen some of these calls. But first time, long time. Thanks for joining us right here. Of the many shows with experience in the title, right? Remix, you can pick which one is your favorite. What an original name. No tribute to Joe Rogan here, but is Jimi Hendrix the GOAT? Yeah, I think he is. So enjoy that. Brody Moret's back, so he's gonna get a little loose too. We don't hate women's MMA, just women in general. Okay, there you go. So Luke Thomas was right. Okay. I think the answer to all of UFC's issues for Luke Thomas is put the camera on me. Just because you hate women, it's not your fault you weren't born in before 1993, right? There we go. Shout out to Luke Thomas. We love him. All right. Old man Dave is here. Yep. Mikey Mo Miles. That's my guy. Got our back forever. My back, your back. The guy's it's a snug. He'll take that. He'll go big spoon on you. But we shout out to Mikey just the same. Just don't send him pictures of your unit. You know where I'm going with that. All right. There we go. Got a few topics to get into. Kind of the topics that probably, along with UFC 315 picks, would have filled out a morning combat episode today, but we did hit that on Wednesday. All things 315 pregame preview, like I talked about. We even hit a little PFL at the end, so check that out once again. Populate the people that you care about in these YouTube streets. All right, support my peers, Long Island Luke Thomas, all that. And we'll get to your questions today. The super chat is open, but your choice. Use it, lose it, whatever. I'm still going to be here. We're still going to have a good time. All right. That's what we do. Mikey Marlboro Miles. I don't know. No, he's not a fan of the traditional cigarettes, from at least from what I can see. But those lefties, those left-handed ones, wow, yeah, baby, yeah. All right, there you go. Monticello back. You ever put toothpaste? No. Do we ever screen our guests? That's the question, because I'm looking at your internet search history right now, Monticello, and wow. I mean, they put sandwich creators away for worse, if you know what I'm talking about. All right, and they still will, but yeah. Remix quickly. The NBA playoffs are really good this year. Yeah, it's about time I tune in. No more excuses. It's about time I tune in. I've been following very distantly and then been like, damn, I should have watched that game last night. But I could see these rivalries. And yes, this 0-2 hole for the Celtics is adequately breaking my heart and getting me angry. But let's see. Let's not forget. Right. We talk about this often, and we, meaning me, in a long circle in which you've probably already heard it before. But do we forget what Paul Westphal and the number 1 seed 93 Suns said after falling 0-2 at home against the number 8 seed post Magic old ass Lakers with the last legs of James Worthy and Byron Scott? What did Paul Westphal say after Sedale 3? It lit him up twice in a row. He said, it's fine. We're going to come back on Sunday. We're going to win. Tuesday night, we're going to win again. Then we're going to come back here on game 5. Everyone's going to be excited, and we're going to win again. That's exactly what they did, okay? This is what the Celtics are going to do. That's what I'm going to do. That's what you're going to do. Keep getting up, okay? That's what life is. We always look at life as a celebration of our W's. I don't mean Bush, but, there you go. No, I mean, did he plan 9/11? That's another podcast. But the whole point is, I wonder, though, if life is really a celebration of your survivals, of the times that you said no to the easy decision to give in and give up, and you decided to fight. I don't know if you guys have heard this. I don't know if this came up at all at any of your Anthony Robbins cassette tapes, but fighting is in our DNA. Okay. Dana taught me that. All right. There we go. There we go. Brody, one more time. BC, Pat McAfee and Booker T took your spot as the top boxing insiders. Yes, top boxing insiders of those who work directly for TKO in Turkey and are willing to carry that company line. I mean, look, it's not lost on me. When you work for people, you got to carry that company line. It's how it works in 25. The old days of the editorially agnostic HBO boxing platform are gone, but there are levels to carrying water, right? There are levels to that. But shout out to Booker T. I never have any issue with Booker T. Fantastic guy. I don't know Pat McAfee. Met him one time. I like his style. I like his gimmick, but I just feel like he has gone so overboard now from like, you know, the rebel. I'm not going to listen to ESPN, even though I'm on ESPN guy to, oh, TKO, you need me to carry out some lies. Like, where do I start? Where do I fill it in? All right. But that's life as we live it. Can you dig that? Sucker. Yes. Five-time. Booker T, great guy, great dude. I love seeing him pop up at various boxing pay-per-views when he's there for his Houston radio station. Did I like the planted question he gave Turkey last week of like, TKO, Ali act, let's help the boxers out finally. Yeah, well, no, I didn't actually, but yeah, there we go. Okay. Anything else we have to get into before I get into some stuff? A lot of getting into here, okay? A lot of getting after it, all right? There we go. All right. AG1 for the working man. Yeah, there it is. All right, we got no text messages. I think we're ready to just jam right here. Ready to start jamming. Okay. Opening topic, surprise news, right? Overnight. Not surprised in the sense that we had heard this coming. We had seen the smoke signals in the air that 46-year-old Manny Pacquiao could be not only making a boxing comeback, 4 years removed from the ring, one fight in the last 6 years. Once again, the same age as me, 46 years old. Okay, the class of 96, those 78ers. All right, that's what I'm talking about. Only he wants to come back, not in an exhibition against a kickboxer, not in a Floyd Mayweather rematch, but to go for an actual welterweight title. Maybe the most attainable one, depending upon your opinion of a fun fighter in Mario Barrios. But the WBC longstanding rules have officially been that, yes, AG1, the official nectar of the gods, thank you, have officially been that a former champion could come out of retirement and demand a title shot. Now, that doesn't seem like a hard and fast rule because there's a lot of former title holders down on their luck that would probably take a payday to do anything that, we don't see them lining up or being allowed in. But if it's Manny Pacquiao and we're this close to him being active, although very far, but still this close, meaning it's not Mike Tyson against Jake Paul, people will look the other way, obviously, because of the historical potentials, the storyline, and how all of that plays into the money. This is prize fighting, but certainly not lost on me a couple of things. One, I might get a chance to call this fight. Andreas Hale of ESPN doing the reporting that PBC and Prime would go in this direction potentially for a July 19th pay-per-view. I think Las Vegas, not officially confirmed by PBC and certainly not confirmed by me internally or anything like that, but that it could be Pacquiao Barrios. You could actually end up seeing Fundora Zoo 2, which has been rumored, maybe even on that card. So if they go that direction, I'm going to love it. Maybe me where I'm at in my career, the potential of just calling a Manny Pacquiao fight, if that's the way it ends up playing out, like, yeah, holy crap, that's wild. But like, does he have a chance? And on top of that, is this dangerous? Is this gross? Does this have potential to be gross and or disgusting? Not like officially, yes. In any situation when an aging fighter comes back. Pacquiao is, though, to be very honest, he is in that wild card sense of if there is a 1% of the great fighters of our time who can pull off crazy comebacks like this. And maybe, and not obviously he's here to win, but like pull it off from the standpoint of not getting embarrassed, not getting brutally finished, or not being even in a situation where like Ali was in the Larry Holmes and Trevor Berbick fight, where we're like, just get him out of the ring, right? Like they don't want to be in there against him. We don't want this. We don't want that. I don't want that. But there is a thin line between that and being competitive and having a chance to make history. And maybe I've just come around a long time ago that Manny Pacquiao is like quasi superhuman. Like he's a living legend for a reason. His story is absolutely incredible. Love or hate every part of his personality and his walk. But like his ability to rise in weight from 16 years old at 108, 6 pounds, right, all the way up to winning titles at 54 and reinventing himself in ways that, like, I mean, you know, after the Jeff Horn fight, did you ever think that guy was going to be back in a major way? Not me. Did I expect him to go in there at 40 and become the fighter of the year out of nowhere, beating Broner, beating prime, unbeaten Thurman for the title in a great fight? No. Has he shown us flashes since then that what he's trying to do against Barrios is possible? Well, not necessarily. No, either. But you do have to take into account a few things. I thought it was disappointing the last time we did see him 4 years ago in 2021 when Pac was unable to really get over that hump against, I don't want to say disappointing, because what did you expect at that age with that inactivity of Pacquiao, right? He had been 2 years out from the Thurman fight. He was 42 years old. And it's not like he got embarrassed. He lost. He was supposed to fight Errol Spence. Ugas pulls in the last minute as the replacement. And Pacquiao loses 7-5, 8-4, 8-4, right? Maybe a little wider than what those scores indicate. But it was clear that like that fastball is gone. Digging into the bag to kind of pull it out was gone. What have you. I think the damning elements since then have not only been the 4 years off, but the fact that when we have seen him, we can keep in mind he's a busy guy. He's always doing politics of some kind in the Philippines. He's got a Senate election coming up, I think, in the next month. He's also going into the International Boxing Hall of Fame in June. The whole idea is, are we asking like not just too much of him, but way too much of him? I think one thing is, and this is what came up in my opinion in the Jeff Horn fight. I know people think he won and that it was a robbery. I don't think it was a robbery. I scored the draw in real time. And I think people were missing what Horn was really doing in physicality wise, and just bodying him. But I think what we learned in that fight about old Manny was that if he's not training 100% and giving it all, you're going to get diminished results like you would with any aging fighter. But you also could get fooled like we did a year later, right? Remember, he went from stopping Matisse to beating the bags off Broner and then to upsetting Thurman. And you're like, damn, when he is dialed completely in, he can go for it and tune it back and be insanely, incredibly competitive all again. Hey, Reg, what's up? Reggie J in the house. But when we saw him against that kickboxer, Rukia Anpo, a year and a half ago. Now, Anpo, real young, was 160 pounds. Manny, I think, not in great shape for that one. Thought it was just, let's make some money, have an exhibition, only nobody told Anpo it was an exhibition, and he put it on him. I think what's odd about this fight, Barrios, is that you did get a lot of people coming out and going like, gross, this is sinful, this is disgusting. Why is PBC doing this? Why is Manny doing this? Why is boxing allow this? But I've seen just as many boxing hardcores, insiders, the people that call out all the bullshit in boxing, also being like, yo, low key, if Manny comes back and gives his all for this, that experience, that retained level of quickness, whatever's there, like Barrios ain't a killer. He's a credible champion, but we've seen him lose on the pay-per-view level to Keith Thurman and Tank Davis. We've seen inconsistencies in this title reign alone, including that draw with Abel Ramos on the Paul Tyson undercard. That, yeah, it does sort of make you go, this is crazy, but maybe he can do it in terms of being competitive, in terms of giving him a chance to enter that group of I guess you want to call the greatest elite senior fighters who literally still had it. We're talking Bernard Hopkins stuff right now, you know, winning world titles at 48, defending it until almost age 50. Archie Moore, who was, there's a debate within Moore because people don't know whether he was 46 or 48 officially due to birth certificate concerns in terms of what his actual date was and the times that he won it. But that's another fighter who historically campaigned very successfully at a late age. Gun to my head. Could Pacquiao win this? It's like, you want to say no. Of course you want to say no. You want to say knee jerk. Is there a scenario where he can be competitive and retain respect and make it worth your outing and worth your time to take a chance on history and see a legend try to do something crazy? Yeah, I think he could. I actually think he could, but it's a thin line at that age between could he, kind of some of the things we tried to talk ourselves into with a 58-year-old Mike Tyson, between that and will he. That's a thin line. It can get close quickly. People remember Sugar Ray Leonard coming back again against Hector Camacho and getting beaten down and stopped. Yeah, I mean, look, I expect Hank Williams IV. I expect takes like this. BC, my man, Pacquiao is an utter disgrace. Okay, that's the utter disgrace is tough here. That's a little harsh, but boxing never fails to let itself down. Pathetic, dangerous, cynical, tragically embarrassing to have Manny fight Barrios at 47. Well, he'll be 40. He's 46. He'll stay 46 at that fight. If the reporting here is true, and I get it. Look, this ain't Holyfield at 59 against Vitor Belfort or Tyson Paul. It's not that. If somebody can take this much time off, but yet decide to go after it, and because he's retained that speed, and because this is who Manny is, like the reason why I don't have as outrageous a knee jerk, this is gross feeling here is one, I've conditioned myself to kind of like a little sloppiness on top of my boxing, especially as guys get a little bit old. But two, it's like, man, he's just a different dude. He's just a different dude. He's a 1%er. He is like, if anyone could do some of this late career stuff, it really is him. And I think, like I talked about before with that Horn fight, even though it was a good 8 years ago now, 7 years ago, is that I think there is a difference between Manny at 70% going hard and Manny at I'm going all in like he did for the Thurman fight. Yeah. And now I got two cats in here. All right, let me close this door. Talk amongst yourselves for a second as they probably fight it out. Let's hear from Keith Thurman about this situation. Heard Keith Thurman was going to be here. Sounded boring. Found the man. Still sounded boring. Yeah. All right, we're back. Zoe the cat is also in the building right here. I obviously have a lot of hope that it wouldn't get gross. But this is interesting. And if it's Zoo Fundora as a co-main, good Lord, that's, guaranteed savagery. That's going to be a thriller and going to be in a lot of ways an attempt to create a true power player at 154, because it's not Crawford. Crawford's moving up to 68. Crawford's already changed his tune of what he said 2 months ago when suddenly he was teasing again after the Canelo fight that he would come back down and try to take all the belts at 54. But I mean, is it possible if Crawford goes out there and just, plays chess to the nth degree and just bedazzles Canelo? Could he go, undisputed 4-belt champion in 3 divisions now? Can I also do it at 54? I mean, it's possible, but I think with the bulking that Crawford's going to do in an intelligent way on his body to add size so that he doesn't get thrown around on the inside, with that backbone, with his want to be great, is there potential for Canelo Crawford to be in a surprisingly boring fight? It is, if Bud's only chance of swimming in those deep waters is yucking up the fight and fighting negative. But I don't think he's about that life. I think he's about, if I'm going to make this statement, I want to do it the North Omaha way. I want to do it the full backbone way. I want to do it can I hurt this guy and maybe even stop this guy? I mean, there's a lot of scenarios in that fight too. Not that I'm comparing Canelo Crawford to Pacquiao Barrios, but there's a lot of different scenarios in that piece of theater of where that could go. So maybe Fundora Spence does kind of produce the class at 54 at the moment. I know there's a lot of risers in that division, a lot of people that look like they could be king. Virgil Ortiz Jr., one of those. Yeah. Interesting. Speaking of Canelo Crawford, Dana White did confirm Turki Al-Ashik's tweet talking to UFC media in the past couple of days in Montreal, saying that they will be, meaning TKO Boxing, launching their efforts with the Canelo Crawford fight. No confirmation yet if it's going to be Netflix, but I think it being on a Friday really screams that it will be. Yesterday, Mark Shapiro of TKO also talking, I think, on the quarter income call with however that works out. John Nash relays us the information, right? Zach Arnold, like the experts in this case. But they're saying that Shapiro had said, when asked about the schedule for TKO Boxing and the name, which they haven't announced what the name will be yet, is that they're looking at 12 fights a year on a 5-year deal with 1 to 4 super fights. Now, I don't know if that's 1 to 4 on top of the 12. Is 12 fights a year the league that they want to start, the young fighters. Hey, Zoe the Cat in the house. And maybe the 1 to 4 are the big Netflix dates. It's something to think about. But the reason why I bring this up is Dana confirmed, well, it's not, he didn't need to confirm it. As long as he says that they're handling the fight, they're handling it. But that the next night is UFC Noche in Guadalajara. And Dana's whole point when asked point blank about is TKO involved, TKO is like, yeah, for Canelo Crawford, we are producing, promoting, handling PR, handling every operation, handling the whole thing. So that brings up, I think, a real interesting question, because I feel like Canelo Crawford now has a lot of pressure on itself. And maybe, like, boxing is such a fickle game where when we're talking about the status of a fighter, you are only as good as your last performance. You know, like I talked up Ryan Garcia coming into this Rolley fight as like, and look what happened. He could go out there and get a knockout in the next fight, and we're all back on that bandwagon of, oh my God, he may have put it together. It changes quickly. But I think Canelo and Crawford have a lot of pressure on themselves for TKO and Turkey to kick this thing off with a bang based upon what happened last weekend in the Saudi Canelo card and the Times Square debacle the night before. But again, maybe we get another Eubank Ben between now and then out of the rematching series, and maybe we forget about that and suddenly we're all back in on that. I mean, things are fickle and they move quickly. But not only is there pressure on those guys for this TKO debut Super Bowl card at Allegiant Stadium, by the way, like that's a great venue for this. I'm going to guess that they're going to try to pack the undercard with like not only a couple guys they've targeted for the future of TKO from the prospect sense, think like a Callum Walsh, but maybe even like bigger fighters they try to sign, or Turkey with his existing relationships tries to bring on. I think there's a lot of pressure on them for this fight not to be boring, for them to show, if it's on Netflix, TKO can show that they can handle these type of super ones in the boxing space and that there's no hiccups. So already unto itself, that is the so we only we're talking a lot of MMA. It's a big MMA day too, but this is all, related. Stay with me, okay? Stay with me here. AG1 on the white sweatpants. What's new, right? You're putting this much pressure on one fight to basically justify, the high end of Saudi's investment, to justify TKO's interest in going all in. But then the next night, whether it takes place in Guadalajara, or if you hear the internet rumors of the journalists on the Spanish-speaking side saying, guys, that arena will not be ready. You're going to end up seeing Noche in Las Vegas. It would make more sense, by the way, if it's in Las Vegas, because as Dana said, we are going full speed ahead, same team, kind of running both sides. Now, I'm not naive. Obviously, UFC has been and will continue to build up whatever infrastructure of the TKO boxing side so that maybe it's not, oh, we're just pulling the entire MMA team to do this. Because, if that's in Mexico or even if it's in Vegas, that would be difficult for the same exact team to plan and execute two giant cards like that. But just on the company, the stress, especially if it's in separate countries, from a equal push PR wise, like, is this going to make this Noche card a continuation of the disappointing pay-per-view cards that we've seen? The lack of can't miss main and co-main events. Will this lead to them kind of mail it in because there's more upside in them nailing the TKO boxing side the night before? I think it's an interesting topic to talk about. And I think it does play into MMA. And will they mail in Noche, or will they try to make this a quote unquote major and try to get back to doing what we expect out of them with the money they have and the advantages that they have in the business? Zoe the Cat, I found a new head scratcher behind the dresser when I was spring cleaning. You into this or no? Yeah, oh yeah, there we go. Anything to prevent you from biting me. And they're love bites, but they're very violent. They're very vicious. All right, so that's subtopic number one, because it was breaking news overnight. Long Island Luke is here. He is in the building. Okay, a lot of people talking about it in the chat room. So shout out to him of the main card minute of that kind of fame. Canelo Crawford will be boring, says Brody Moret. Only super fight I want to see is Inoue Nakatani. Wow, Naoya going to sleep. That's a bold prediction right there. I do think we get that fight, by the way, over the next 9 months. So I think everybody can end up being happy. And look, can it be Canelo Crawford disappointing and boring? Yeah, it very much can be, especially again if Canelo has success early and then Crawford's like, yo, this size difference does matter. I'm going to circle, I'm going to box. But I think there's pressure on all of them. There's pressure on Canelo to, like, Be Canelo again and stop doing what you've been doing. But there we go. All right. All right. Toe spacers for LT. We all know how that guy gets down. Quick question coming in from a fan or from a listener. Let's not assume that we're fans here, right? I mean, I could get some haters in this chat for sure. Monticello saying, would you rather have a car ride with John Jones or a motorcycle ride with Ngannou? Yeah, that's dark. That's dark. Is this where BC apologizes? Let's see. I think somebody super chatted in on that. So let's address the elephant in the room. Not that super chat. We'll get back to that. Here we go. We're going to hear from Sang Jin Chung. Thank you for supporting this, even if you're supporting this to get me to talk about this. Do you regret the Francis Ngannou joke from Wednesday's pregame preview? I mean, regret's a harsh word. Yeah, there's layers of regret based upon how not well received it was from a large percentage of the population. Did I take those chances knowing that was possible? Yes. Is that the platform, meaning a Cuervo episode of pregame preview in which we're taking shots of tequila and trying under the premise of what made pregame preview special from the beginning, trying to give a no holds barred, this ain't me, this is like us talking to our friends type of show. That's the show to attempt something like that. Was that the wrong joke at the wrong time, too soon, and about the wrong subject, because we are in reality talking about a tragedy in a young child? Then yes, then I apologize. That was out of bounds. But at the same time, that's the show, in my opinion, from an entertainment standpoint for that. And whether you're got a Dale Jr. joke that's probably been overplayed, and there are people that are like, yo, enough. I don't want that. I don't want Kobe freak. I don't want hashtag girl dad Kobe jokes in my show. Then I understand that too. All right. You can't always get it right trying to be edgy. You can certainly miss aggressively, but I think I get caught up a lot in the artistic mission statement of what I'm trying to do here. Even this moment for Ryzen fell into that accidentally. The whole point is to get Luke Thomas to react. That's the have you seen this shit premise, right? To get him to the punches you don't see coming are the most dangerous. Same way comedically. Now, are we all trying to be Tony Hinchcliffe here and attack Puerto Ricans at the Republican convention? No, we're not trying to. For me, this joke was about the timeliness, the chance I took, and the potential reaction of Luke. But in reality, am I endorsing that humor, or do I mean negative things against the true subjects at play? No, obviously not. But apologies just the same. Yes, there are elements of the MK experience, and particularly pregame preview, that will be a fastball that slides in, under the cup protector once in a while. And sometimes that's good. But yeah, there we go. I apologize to absolutely nobody. I mean, in reality, would I do it again? Yeah. I'd try to land that plane again comedically. That's sometimes what we're trying to do here. But thank you very much. If I wanted to watch Apologies, Blackmouth says I'd watch the Helwani show. Okay, there we go. That's fair. Okay. All right. I mean, I don't take back all my Benoit jokes or my War Machine ones. Just trying to, whatever. Okay. Hold on. One more CAD assist. And why don't we,
Jim, I got to tell you something. Are these guys Russian, or are they just in a hurry?
Okay, Jim, let's go to Harold. Thank you. 4 rounds to 3. Okay, great stuff right there. And if you don't like this show, turn off your station. Thank you, Jim Nance's nephew. If you don't like them jokes, leave. Well, no, I'm not asking you to leave. But is there a line? Is there a limit? There is a line. But on pregame preview, heads up, folks, that line's gonna blur. All right, that line is definitely going to blur. Quick interlude question here from 8 Kai. Why did BC work with LT? Because of the money? No. I mean, you get into new opportunities hoping that it leads to money, but I worked with Luke because we had great chemistry. We basically had the same idea for a show at the same time. And it happened. So there you go. But yeah, am I also trying to get paid from this? Yeah, somebody's got to put these kids through college, right? That's the goal. That's the goal. I mean, I do art for free when it benefits my career or if it's just a passion play for sure. But yeah, there we go. Let's get into topic 2 quickly here. Ilia Topuria. So he did officially come out and say, yes, as Dana did confirm, by the way, at that press conference yesterday, that the UFC 315 main event, Bilal JDM, will 100% affect who fights in the main event at UFC 317 at International Fight Week. And now you got Topuria going on, I think it was Spanish TV, and basically saying, I'm officially fighting at 317, but yes, the rumors are true. I don't know who I'm going to fight officially until 315's main event is done. This is weird. This is unique. Is it a good unique? I mean, it adds spice to this Saturday's main event. It certainly could sway the direction you cheer based upon what you want in the future. But am I happy that this is the way it's being presented? No, because I want UFC, I want them to do a lot of things at once, and maybe it's unfair. But it's like, I want them to do things ethically that we feel like they're morally that we feel like they should do, like taking care of the fighters, not being all about filling their pockets first and putting the sport and the health of all that, second, stuff like that. I want them to not be so much of a monopoly and monopsony, but yet at the same time, I'm like, if you have the leverage and control that you do have based upon being exactly that, how about we wield that? How about we wield that so that once again, the people that there's 2 people that need not suffer in combat sports. Number 1, the fighters, but number 2, the hardworking paying fan. And obviously this all aligns with the developments that we've all been waking up to over the past year, whether on our own, whether listening to this show, reading MMA Draw, however you access your own epiphany, this whole idea that UFC doesn't care about the fight fan anymore. And it's not so much a wake up decision of like, we're no longer caring about the fight fan moving forward, right? It's more just that's not their biggest customer. Their customers are the TV networks giving them the foundational amount of guaranteed money to do what they do. And then number 2, at the moment, it seems all these government contracts and how important it is, whether it's Azerbaijan, whether it's Salt Lake City, to get these enormous site fees for these deals to keep coming back. So the fan is going to be stiff-armed and pushed away naturally. They've only been too heavy-handed and transparent about it, but yet never commenting about it, that it kind of we're in this in-between weird spot. But if you are wielding that power, and they are, then make the fights that you're supposed to make, please. Don't let it come down to like, let me get this right. I'm cheering for Bilal to win so that we can get the best fight in the sport that feels like a no-brainer, Islam versus Ilia. They're in the same division. They're the 2 best. They're 2 giant stars. But if I don't want them to fight, but I want them to fight for titles soon in separate divisions, and I'm going to cheer for JDM, like this just feels weird and backward, especially in the same season that we're not 100% sure we're getting Jones Aspinall, which is another no-brainer. So this is part of my whole like UFC, like clean up your house, right? Like get your own internal shit together. Don't like what I really dislike the most, and I'll take criticism between 9:15 a.m. What is BC complaining about now? Both options are great. Ilia versus Charles or Ilia versus Islam, and the implications of Islam at 170. What are you complaining about exactly? Fair counterpoint, fair comeback, fair pushback for somebody who's maybe been spending too long fearing this, complaining about this. But the deal is, yes, is what you're saying true? That either way, we're either getting Islam for a vacant title at IFW this year against Charles, badass balls bonanza fight, and we could be getting double the fun because that would mean Islam moving up and fighting Jack Della Maddalena for the welterweight title if he beats Bilal. It's very haphazard. And it is a continuation, in my opinion, of how they've been booking main events, which is like, oh, we got the city locked up, but let's kind of hope our plan A works. Oh no, it's only 2 months out and our plan A is not going to work. We have no other plans. That's where we're constantly feels like we're at. It doesn't feel like they open the calendar year and go, all right, what's this guy's health? We need him to fight 3 times this year. Let's strategically put him here. Let's strategically do this. It feels very like, oh, we got to put this here. Okay, so we got this situation. So, okay, Brady's going to fight Leon now. We're going to do it. Feels just like that constantly. I don't want to feel like that when you have all the control and we have these great fights in front of us. So maybe none of this matters. And if Bilal wins on Saturday, like, we're going to get the fight that we, in my opinion, we should be getting, that I want the most. But I'm just like, yo, take control. Like, every time Dana's asked about it, there's no answer. There's just the little smile and the, yeah, that sounds like a good plan, or what he said might be accurate. And then you get Dana going to the press conference and, like, you know, ending it after like 15 minutes, just be like, oh, no more questions. Great. We're out of here. Like, he's checked out. I need whoever the spokesperson is, whoever the face of the brand is, because not the fighters. I need that person to be checked in, even if they're completely lying to us. You need those constant check-ins. You need the truth. I'm just like, yo, why should it come down to who wins this fight that you could argue probably even shouldn't be the fight for the welterweight title right now? I know that the seas kind of parted in such a weird way with Bilal being hurt and the Shavkat being hurt, and then Gary having a close loss, but also coming back and having a win, that it just kind of opened for JDM, even though he hasn't fought in 14 months. And he's coming off a win that he was down on the cards late in round 3 and had a rally for the knockout, and he had 2 split decisions before that. But I'm like, we already kind of get in one of these circumstance fights. Don't make a circumstance fight decide the circumstances of your international fight week when we're less than 2 months out. And we're not even sure Islam's going to fight there anyway. Like, it's just, you know, it's Bush League. It's the kind of thing that when you're cheering for a promotion, and we used to cheer for the UFC, I mean, really cheer. We wanted to be a part of something. We, meaning the media and the fans who really cared. You wanted your underground fight club favorite sport that's so gnarly. Now, you didn't want that gnarliness to wash away in this Walmartified microwave McDonald's era that we're in, where they went fully corporate, but it happened. You want it to get respect, for there to be money involved, for it to do big events, for it to be on major networks. To some degree, you want that. But they no longer care if there's a narrative of anybody cheering for them or not. So when you're cheering for your promotion that could, to get over that hill, you'll cheer along with them, with their difficulties, with their limitations. There shouldn't be these limitations on UFC when it's year over year, hand over fist record financials. So get it done. Get it done. Have a plan. Get it freaking done. What are we doing here? All right. Topic number 2/3. Pacquiao was extra. I don't know. Who cares? Nobody. All right. All right. Real quick interlude here from Manny Pacquiao. Did you see Jack Della's insult of Ian Gary's kid without any precedence? He must be okay with us asking why his youngest child clearly has okay. All right. That went a little left turn, but I did see the comment from Jack. I was a little surprised at how, because it did seem like, although forced, somewhat of a cute moment where Ian Gary, who is the official backup, weighing in, sending his son out. It's a good media moment, right? They're obviously, him and his wife Ian are pumping up their son with all the cool stuff he does to kind of, you know, be an attraction in some weird way. But, you know, sending him out, giving M&Ms, looking up that it's his favorite candy. It's both a nice, wholesome moment that also creates clicks and content, and a little bit of gamesmanship from Ian. And maybe this is just reverse gamesmanship from Jack Della, being like, yeah, I don't even like M&Ms, and that's not his son, you know. And it's like, oh, you can connect the jokes of where we're going on there. But interesting, because even though Dana wouldn't confirm, obviously, because there's so much going on related to Ilia, Islam, and Bilal and all that, but Ian Gary could be next. Now, if Makhachev comes up, obviously that's going to crash that party. And obviously you also have competition from the likes of Sean Brady and whoever wins this Buckley versus Usman fight. I love where we're at in welterweight. So, like, it's greedy to me. Like, we have so much going on at welterweight of people that we need to see wither through and get their opportunity, meaning whoever wins the championship on Saturday, I can't wait to see them defend against Ian Gary, against Sean Brady against Buckley, almost like in succession. It'd be great. It's the division moving forward. I say that to say I don't even know if we need Islam right now, even though I support Islam at 33, being the best fighter in the world, having become a pay-per-view star, going through the lineup he's went through, kind of going, yeah, I want to go up and try to become a true all-time great 2-division champion. I'm all for that. I just feel like you can do that a fight or two later, because these two may need a fight or two against each other. And your business and your reputation right now as a promotion might need that. I know you don't care about that. I know you don't think you need that. I know there's also some of us that are just worried, like, are they holding back all the good matchups so this next TV deal? There's a lot of BS that's affecting the sport. Like in boxing, the one that Dana White always rips all the time. Boxing, because it's so unorganized, has all the business BS being your front page news, and that all the relationships between promoters and who hates who, that all dictates the fights we actually get. That was never a part of UFC history for the most part. In fact, they use that as their calling card as to why they're better than boxing. And now, not only are they getting into boxing, they've completely become boxing. There you go. We've come full circle. You've heard my complaints. There it is. Whoop, there it is. Extension of this last topic. We bring up Alex Pereira, Poatan, Merle's ex. We bring up Alex. Was he hacked? Was he not hacked? Daniel Cormier had the best response to this, and I think he was right. And I don't know if he comes to the ESPN airwaves on his Chael and DC show. What is it? Good guy, bad guy? I don't even know what they call it anymore. Big guy, bad guy? I don't know. I don't know if he comes directly there from inside UFC knowledge or not. But he said what we were all thinking. Hey, Alex, you didn't get hacked. What happened was they're scrambling for potential ways to save 317, knowing that not only is it kind of dependent upon if Bilal wins or loses, but will Islam then be 100% willing to A, fight Topuria, and B, do it in less than 2 months, that I'm sure, like DC said, they reached out to Ankalaev and said, just so we know, here's even a contract. Are you available? Just, they do that all the time. They send out contracts and they put pressure on others. People get screwed. It's why, McGregor fought Eddie at 205 and not Habib. We've seen this a million times. But I think what DC said, we're all thinking, dude, you weren't hacked. You got reached out to. You may have been not officially ready to come back this quickly, and they may have told you they're going to move on and reach out to others. And then you got mad, which certainly is in his right, being, is there a more valuable employee for the UFC right now than Poatan, even coming off of a loss, considering how many times, due to my criticism, that they don't seem to have a solid plan for these big card, big main events, and yet all we ever do is call Poatan to bail out, and he does it. It was very too specific to his potential actual situation to be a hack, when every time people get hacked, it's actually to say something racially insensitive, to be fair, right? Or to aggressively try to sell some shitcoin or something like that. I agree with DC in this case. This, maybe this is UFC telling DC to go say it, to go like, let the public know through the lines here that they may not have been, because right when it happened, admittedly, we're all like, oh, now the UFC, they can't stop screwing their own people. Now they got employee number one here, right? They got the best guy and they're getting him pissed off and threatening retirement. I think in hindsight, it's fair to question, this may have been an overreaction to something in their ongoing negotiation that Poatan didn't like. But the whole situation, very interesting. And it's not like I'm necessarily against Poatan for doing potentially doing the push out of the tweet, the pull back, and now I'll handle this. Let me put out a video. Just was hacked, because that may have been a move he needed to do to show them, don't fuck with me. At the end of the day, don't fuck with me. All right. I hope they don't F with him. And I hope that we do get that rematch at an upcoming pay-per-view where it would matter more and not just be a bandage that you just go, oh yeah, we really don't have a show. All right, we're doing this one now. Let's plan that out. Let's make it good. All right. Mr. Cunningham, rumor has it that Pereira's password is Chama. Probably it's probably like Chama123, right? Or something like that. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Brody Moret, the real question, BC, will TKO's boxing 12 events take place in the Apex? Oh, great question. Some of them, it seems like, definitely will. It seems like it. And it seems like that was a big part of their push to expand the Apex, not just because, look, it became a post COVID. It's obvious what happened. TKO was like, we can save this much money if you just operate in the Apex. Let's go. Half the year we're operating in the Apex, right? Like they're trying to pull back any dollar they can. But I think they also, or I hope that they heard the criticism of, like, especially when it's a really good fight and you're in there and it's dead and all the people that are around the cage are people that paid $2,000 for like a celebrity fan experience, or it's like at Zuck and his wife, right? So yeah, you were going to have to expand that anyway. But the hope here for me as a fan is I don't think it needs to be a big expansion for the Apex to work. Intimate arenas do work. I know I'm going to give you pro wrestling examples right here, and it's different. It is. But the NXT arena at Full Sail in Orlando that was intimate and always had hardcore fans that were so dialed into the characters and the storylines, that worked on TV. The ECW arena worked on TV. But there's also been, some great boxing venues like that, like the one in Philly. What was that? The Blue Horizon, where it's just sort of like, oh, Friday night or Tuesday night fights on USA is live from Philly. Like, okay, we're going to get some bangers in this box, right? That Apex can be that, in my opinion, and maybe feel like some of the Ultimate Finale fights where they would let a full fight fans come in, or Dana White Contender Series when it's when things are jazzed up and well oiled and people are hyped. Yeah, go as high as 3,000-4,000 in there. It could be one of the coolest arenas, and they're going to need it for the launch of it, in my opinion, because they're not only taking boxers and trying to sell them directly to their UFC audience with this expansion, but especially in the early going, they're not going to have access to just go around all the major promotions and pick. Maybe that's what Turkey's building toward, because he's building all these relationships, making everybody Ring Magazine ambassadors. Right now, he's going on Twitter and saying, you know what I want next? I want Keyshawn Davis, after he beats De Los Santos, to move up in weight and fight Teo. And, this fantasy matchmaker / player of toys in a sandbox that he now owns can do that to some degree, even though you're talking about Bob Arum's fighters. So, that is going to be the major hill they're going to have to climb, in my opinion, to merge the two ideas into one of what TKO is doing. One idea is they're playing the role of HBO, potentially on Netflix, and they're going to be the Hauser operator of the biggest pay-per-views of the year. And then the other half is these Apex shows, or wherever they're going to put them, where they're going to be developing talent. It's going to take time for that talent for the people to get educated. And you better hope the people are entertained. That's why it's weird. There's criticisms against the way that the Dana White Contender Series factory works for UFC now. And I think the criticisms rightfully surround, one, you're just bringing in guys, whether they're experienced or not, at such a low salary. Like, this is the pipeline to get in nowadays. You got to go through a promotion that has a promoter who's a UFC approved manager, and you graduate through that promotion by hiring that promoter as your manager. And then, that's the path for a lot of these guys. Jason House is the Dana White Contender Series, star in terms of management there. And the other bad part of the DWCS MMA side of the factory is that it aggressively prioritizes people taking chances and finishing, which is great for entertainment. It's great to try to groom people at a younger age into the Dana White TV entertainment friendly mindset where losses don't matter and we're just going to go balls out. But it creates fighters that aren't quite ready for prime time, that are getting pushed into contention. In boxing, since they're starting from scratch, those latter criticisms probably won't be a big deal yet. So if they go tiny ring, like tiny showbox level, give me an 18 by 18. If they do that, and there are financial encouragements for people to fight crazy and aggressively, like, this might become a fun series. But I still think the merging of their two plans and the speed of which they can do that, and obviously how many big name fighters can they poach and bring over, The only way that they're going to win long term is if they can merge those two. But I'm not here negatively saying the 12 events a year of up and coming fighters is going to be horrible TV. If they're smart, they will do it Tuesday night fight style. They will do it. Let's have fun bangers in there and let's create fun personalities. I just don't think the general public is going to accept these TV friendly fighters with fun personalities as TKO champions and the best in the world. That's why how they bring those two ideas together and the speed of it will 100% dictate the success rate of TKO boxing. All right. Yeah, this is getting gross, Mike Hawks Long. I don't want to block you, but these comments are disgusting, dude. All right, so there you go. All right, thank you. Yeah, great. Next topic, and then we're taking your questions. Then it's that time of the day, okay? And thank you for joining here. Hope you're doing well. Hope you got a little AG1 in your life. I mean, it's, whatever. All right. Rolley Romero. I'll be quick. Outside of his one comment that I don't love and he's been getting ripped for on Twitter in the past day, which was, and I get why he took this angle of looking back at the Times Square card, the fact that Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia as big A sides that were being prepped to fight each other in the next pay-per-view, why they are overpaid and not as hungry, because that is part of the equation of the hangover from that. But I told you in my morning comment on Monday when we played the Tim Bradley comments, I don't want to push that so aggressively because it's too convenient of a narrative for TKO to just be like, yeah, we're the perfect fix for that. We ain't going to pay anybody anything, right? We're going to pay. So but Rolley took it too far in saying, yeah, I think the pay structure needs to be like the UFC. I don't think he's really saying that with full knowledge and understanding. I think he's just trying to say what a lot of us are saying that are starting to get fatigued by the Riyadh Season era is the aggressiveness of the matchmaking, the heavy-handedness of the presentation, that you're kind of effing up the typical life cycles of a fighter in terms of like we want to see the big name fighters more active. Yes. We want to see people in big fights. Yes. But we want to see them motivated to deliver, and by constantly mapping out the future 4 steps ahead so aggressively in how we're presenting the matchmaking, it's creating an opportunity where people obviously don't feel like they have to prove it anymore. Outside of that comment too far from Rolley, although I understand his true intentions here, this victory tour, this victory lap that he's been getting, he showed up at the PBC press conference in LA, that Plant and Charlo and those guys ahead of the May 31st PBC on Prime show that's going to take place from Las Vegas. I'll be on the call there. They had that press conference where Rolley got to speak to the media, did a round table, sort of took his victory lap. Like he's almost doing this like we won bit. And and the we meaning underdogs everywhere, people that have been written off. The we also meaning PBC in this landscape. That was kind of a quasi big win for PBC for him to go do that in there and put Ryan Garcia on his, ledger as a victory. But it's also like potentially completely rebuilding for his brand at the time that he needed it most. And to hear him talk now in these interviews even more about how poor the decision-making he made about his own matchmaking in the past based upon how aggressive these weight cuts were. Like he explained against Tank, which was at 135, that he had no business being able to make that weight anymore, but he did it for the pay-per-view, for the payday. And that when he went out there, he was largely a zombie. And to hear him break down the same thing happening at 140 against Pitbull, which I think we saw, he had no punch resistance. He wasn't in that fight for a second. But the key conversation he gave was his last fight. It was against Manuel Jaimes. It was supposed to be this on a PBC pay-per-view, but was supposed to be a get-well fight for Rolley. Just using his star value, let's put him out there. We'll let him look good. And he looked awful. He gets a decision win lifelessly. And he said that was a wake-up call because he made 140 for that fight. But in the fight, couldn't let his hands go, felt weak, just felt like he had no power whatsoever. I mean, I'm stretching here with my optimism. I'm romanticizing this. But I've said it in the lead up to this fight. I asked, was there so much pressure on Rolley and so little being talked about him because everybody expects Ryan to knock him out and we're going to get Devin and Ryan Part 2, a fight now that that no one seems to even really want, but another topic right there. Shout out to Simone Tate. Thank you, brother. Like you. Yep. I'll be on that call. Fired up when I got the call for that, of course. Is, with the reinvention at this weight, I think we saw it. Now, look, with that fight against Ryan was disgusting. They threw a top, 6 least amount of punches in the history of 12-round fights. Rolley fought better than Ryan, but Rolley didn't fight awesome. But Rolley focused on the things he needed to just completely put Ryan in a situation where he was going to have to brawl to win. He chose not to. So you got to give Rolley credit for disciplining the shit out of Ryan, basically putting him into a point where he almost wanted to quit. Okay. Yeah. Sign up for KOs. I signed up for him. All right. I love Rolley. You guys already know that. But I wonder how big this reinvention could be, because he showed himself against Ryan. Now a passive Ryan, a frustrated Ryan who was going through obviously his own mental battle about who he actually is as a fighter, based upon how lifeless he was. And if he really was off the juice and off the ostarine, I mean, let's put it all out in the front. I think he was probably going, oh crap, I'm not that same guy. Who am I now? But Rolley's commitment to the right hand defensively and actual head movement, he did the whole fight, and his commitment to like, okay, I've seen the roadmap of how I'm going to win these rounds. I'm just going to stick to what I do. I'm going to pump that jab. I'm going to stay busier, but I'm going to stay responsible, and I'm going to go to the body and weaken him. Now, it's hard to gauge what that looks like against Haney at 147, against Brian Norman Jr., against the title holders, Boots and all that. Like, no, Rolley has major limitations. But if Rolley is not shooting himself in the foot before the fight even starts by being at a weight that he can't physically replicate a credible performance, so you're robbing yourself of your resistance and your power, and he goes out in his own weight class and tries to actually shore up the mistakes, he might be Mayorga. He might have a Mayorga-like career. And like, Mayorga's a clown, but the best clown of all time, right? Like the most fun. But to that guy's credit, it gets sent to hell on pay-per-view by the very best, after working his ass off to promote the shit out of that fight and make it must-see, whether we're talking about De La Hoya, Trinidad, and even the Mosley, and even the swan song there when they matched Crazy versus Crazy, when Showtime did that sloppy and awesome Fernando Vargas pay-per-view against him. But what made Mayorga and Maidana to an extent, but I think Maidana was more professional, tried harder, and really under Robert Garcia did a great job heading into the two Floyd fights at taking his awkwardness and making it weaponized. The thing about Mayorga was he'd come back in between those big losses and win 2 to 3. And that third one would sometimes be a vacant title, a secondary title, or what have you, or a good enough B-level name where he'd put his technique back together. Like if Mayorga was really the caveman he presents himself to be, then he would have had zero business when he upset Vernon Forrest, who was number 1 pound for pound by a lot of people coming off of the 2 wins over Shane Mosley. And they go to that rematch. Now he upset him by luring him into a brawl, and it worked. But then he goes into that rematch and outboxes him. If Mayorga had no skills, he'd have no chance of pulling that off and winning that decision. Just like when he lost the title in his next fight against Corey Spinks, which I still think he got a bunk decision. And he went in there and boxed with a very good, slick southpaw boxer. And I think Rolley can be a little bit of both. He can be the funny, goofy B-side slugger, and he can be a guy that can win some fights. So I hope this launches a new side to his career. And I hope he continues to show, as much as we look at him for these one-liners that are ridiculous and play into that side of his personality, I'd like for him to continue to show the real side of his personality too. He is thoughtful. He is, when Ryan Garcia was going through his stuff, he was the only boxer going, yeah, I'm praying for Ryan. I called him. I reached out to him, trying to give him advice. Like everybody else was watching the freak show, and, so maybe he can tone. I mean, maybe we all can tone down the Ngannou jokes on pregame preview. Maybe. We'll work on it. All right. There you go. That's the shit I'm here to talk about. Okay. Let's give them something to talk about, right? How about love? Now it's time to turn it back to you, though. What are you here to talk about? All right. Send in your questions now. Let's have a conversation here. Let's not have one man talking in circles by himself exclusively. All right. Yeah. Pivot. Let's go. Please pivot. Okay. Thank you. All right. Great. The time is now for your questions. Super chat is open. I appreciate your support for this here chat, but not mandatory. So thank you. It's a grift. It's an aggressive grift, but you know, we're all grifters in the end. We are firemen. Okay. We go after the flame, Brody M. You know that, bro. You know that, brother. All right. As as Osborne, not of train fame, but as Osborne once sang, Joan Osborne, what if God was one of us, just a stranger on a bus or an Amtrak? Yeah, I mean, I have to, you know, you got to remind yourself of that when you're in public, in a travel situation, frustrated, exhausted, sweating. And then there's the dude with his ass crack out and no shoes on, you know, and it's uncomfortable, but you know, you got to try to show the love and help others. I get that. We go too far with the homeless recaps of what goes on at the Penn Station or Newark Penn Station, but it's aggressive there. It's very aggressive. But what if God was one of us, right? There we go. Brody Moret coming into the gutter here. BC, have you seen Rolley's sister? I have not. I met Rolley's dad before. His dad's hilarious and crazy, real crazy. Have not met the rest of the family. She's almost as nice as Brandon Figueroa's sister. Yes, Figueroa's sister, who recently had a child with Mario Barrios. So congratulations to the Barrios household. Right? I think they're still together. I don't want to speak on that without knowing. All right. I don't want to get Luke mad at me, but sister. Yes. Yes. Okay. Let's hit a couple of these to get it going. All right. Let's do it. This is JFish 500. Thank you, brother. Thank you for your support. BC, thoughts on the new GTA 6 trailer? I did not see that. I'm not a GTA player. I was early on. I did own it on PS2, maybe 3, GTA 3, I think. And my kids do play it today. One of my sons plays the crap out of 5. I'm a Fortnite dad. So I haven't seen that. I can't give you a speak. I mean, if you want to ask me, BC, like, what do you think about this current Star Wars influence season on Fortnite? I don't hate it. I don't love it either. But you didn't ask me about that. But yeah, as a running joke in this house, FIL, baby, Fortnite is life. You know, nobody wants to admit it, but right now it's true. Okay, it's actually true. Shout out to those GTA players, though. Us old guys, we get set in our ways. There we go. Thank you. All right, Run Dem Cheeks, my guy Joe's back. We appreciate you. Thoughts on punk rock bands like Sex Pistols, Black Flag, and the Misfits? So I've been, you know what? This is, to be really fair, I've been, I don't want to say against punk rock over history, but I've certainly to some degree looked down upon it. I like what punk rock became. I like that merger between post-punk and the early new wave / early indie rock sound, you know, that right around that area of like early REM, the Replacements, like where the energy of punk was sort of mixed with a more traditional music direction. But a lot of my misgivings about punk is just built upon ignorance and not taking the time. I wouldn't say I'm a Sex Pistols band. Do I know of their debut album about the Queen being an all-time 5-star album and one of the definitive statements of this genre? Yes. I've listened to it a bit. Didn't hate it, but didn't give it the love. I did go, if you want to loop the Clash into, more of a pop punk mainstream. I love the Clash and what they bring and have sampled their best records and have been big fans. I didn't go Black Flag. I didn't go the Misfits. I didn't go deeper on that, but sometimes I even, it's weird. I like, I mentioned how post-punk kind of merged into early indie, but like, even a songwriter, one of my favorite singer-songwriters, Evan Dando from the Lemonheads. It's crazy to go back to the first 2 Lemonheads records that were indie records that weren't released mainstream. And it's like, that's a punk band. but they merged so perfectly with country and folk and put out this new thing. I do need to go back to the origins and really, really tour the big hits, the big players, the evolution of it within actual punk to be able to speak on it better, because I held these same misgivings against Prague, because when you thought of Prague, you thought, well, you either love Yes and Rush or you hate them, right? But no, there's a whole other many, realms. And then especially when you're getting closer to that point there between 68 and 70, when psychedelic rock merged almost directly into progressive rock. And the bands that sort of had the smell of both on them at the same time put out some of the most interesting rock and roll that we're still listening to today. So, Joe, this is a wake-up call to begin to target a plan of moving in this direction in my music listening dumb, and take a chance and get back to you on that. All right. So, by the way, Joe, you had asked on a previous BCX thing for me to dig a little deeper on Weezer, and not just look at them as a, hey, yeah, I know their hits. I know I've done a little bit of time with their records. I've been on a pretty consistent dive on Pinkerton, and I'm realizing it offers so much more than I expected in the alternative rock vein, and isn't just a full album of catchy MTV hits. And there's a lot going on there that I really like and want to get into deeper. And I've also been enjoying the on the OK Human, more recent Weezer record that was put out, that is, a tribute to OK Computer by Radiohead, or some nod to it. Also been enjoying that. So always looking to round out the horizons musically, and make some move into more territories that I've either dismissed out of ignorance or never took the time. And if you commit to the time and you're ready to go after it, you can unlock gold. But sometimes the time isn't the time. You think it's the time, and then your listening comprehension just goes, no, not now. It's not the time. You got to pivot. You got to find out. You got to listen to the listener and deep inside here. All right, we're going 4D chess here on the understanding of music. Lord of the Pies, I think AG1 pays BC and AG1. No, they don't pay me anything anymore. They're not affiliated with us at all anymore, but I've got some product left over. I enjoy it. I use it. Shout out to AG1. They were good to me. I got nothing but good things to say about them. We had a good run. All right. It's over. There you go. Brody Murat, BC, do you like Smashing Pumpkins, Siamese Dream, one of the best albums of the 90s? That is probably the best 90s example of a band I know I would like. I know I should like. I just haven't done it yet. And for me, the excuse, to be fair, because it's not like I've disliked anything that came out in the prime grunge rock era of when they launched. No, it was pretty damn good. But maybe like my enduring battles with U2 over my one-on-one relationship with Bono, and the same one-on-one relationship and dislike I previously had with Michael Stipe, which prevented me from digging deeper and then actually realizing the totality of REM's career, even through some of the commercial turns, was just awesome and worth the journey. No, I've never done that on here because of not loving Billy Corgan off the start. Now, it's really nothing like specific against him, or it's not like a disagreement in politics or, theology or something. It's like, in fact, I interviewed Billy Corgan for a feature I wrote in 2016 for ESPN during the launch of the pro wrestling coverage that I was a major factor in that whole situation taking place. And it was an awesome hour chat that I still kind of cherish as a cool experience, talking pro wrestling when he bought the NWA. Or I think at the time, this was maybe before the NWA purchases, when he was doing creative work for TNA, and he was making that show watchable and fun. No, I didn't go into here, and I need to. There's no more excuses. I need to get over that Billy Corgan's just a weirdo, and maybe dig the art that he's going to bring to the table right there. I think the other major 90s band that I inexplicably just haven't done the work yet on a Soundgarden, and that's on me, right? I've done, I'm a massive Pearl Jam fan, love STP, love Alice in Chains, and just didn't take the journey. It might be time, it might be time when the time aligns. You'll know it when you hear it. That's how that works. There we go. Sydney Frankenstein, thank you, sir, for chiming in on this here podcast today. Roy talking to Jared Anderson. I think you're talking about Roy Jones. Oh, that video, yes, is one of my favorite motivational speeches. Are there any similar moments you return to for some inspiration? I return to stuff like this all the time. I write the quotes down in the notes on my cell phone and try to randomly, stumble into them every once in a while. But yes, this specific moment, it was a video that was called of Roy Jones Jr. I think that was after Jared Anderson's. I believe we're talking about the one that was after the loss to Martin Bacoli. It was in a gym. Was it that, or was it? Either way, it was like a perfectly emotional speech, not only in the delivery from Roy with all that wisdom, but in the way that Big Baby was interpreting it, internalizing it at first, kind of like, pushing it away, and then also being, oh yeah, you're probably right. There's a huge, for me in my boxing heart, a huge romanticized portion that, especially for creating sound bites on a soundboard back when I do feel like I will Barry Horowitz myself. I don't think anyone's ever worked a soundboard like me in the Rafe Bugs, in this corner State of Combat boxing podcast days. But, you always get so many great moments in those corners and speeches. And, I think one of the biggest ones or most impactful ones was the performance Teddy Atlas put on during the Michael Moore Evander Holyfield fight. Although I don't love that one, because I love Teddy Atlas, love him. But I do agree with some people that Teddy, I mean, that was a full-on acting performance to like wake Michael Moore up and be like, not just once, but like over a course of a fight, of be like, you're going to regret this for the rest of your life. You're giving this fight away. You have it in the palm of your hand. You're going to become heavyweight champion. And it just went a little too far. And then it made Teddy a star. And it kind of like, I don't know. There was something I just didn't love about that. Now, the Teddy Fireman speech to Tim Bradley in the was that the Rios fight where he comes out of that speech and stops him. I mean, that was hilarious and beautiful at the same time. And, sometimes the best advice, which is the same in life, whether it's for, hard-nosed coaches you had as a kid who got the most out of you or whatever, are sometimes those one-liners that have that built-in like dad disappointment in there. Like, Ray Leonard being told in the Tommy Hearns fight by Angelo Dundee, you're blowing it, son. You know what I mean? Like, you're losing this fight and it's on you. Do something about it. Or now we're going next level with Joe Goosen in the corner of Corrales in the first Castillo fight, which just yesterday or the day before, 2 days ago, 20th anniversary of the greatest fight of this century, and a fight that would not be out of place to call it the greatest of all time. Showtime, Corrales, Castillo won. I tweeted out the oral history I did 5 years ago, where I interviewed a bunch of people that were there, from the referee to the trainers to the promoter sitting ringside to media members, and just try to get like a telling of, because you can't talk to Corrales, who passed away obviously in 2007, and then Castillo just, he doesn't speak English and he's just not around, isn't like doing media on a major level. So that you better effing get inside on him, and all the things that led up to Joe giving the, that's why that's so perfect, that fight. The fact that there's really no bad round in 10. 9 is a little of a slow down, get well round, yet it's still crazy. 8 is probably the round of the decade until round 10, right? Like, it had everything. It also had the best finish ever, the best one-round comeback in a big fight ever. And it also had like the coolest trainer versus fighter relationship at that moment, with this dude, Joe Goosen, who's dressed like he's going to Studio 54 with a, bag of Coke in his back pocket, with the chest hair flowing. And I was like disappointed, like, you had this fight and you blew it. And I told you were, not to do this. And that's the thing. If you read the oral history, that's kind of interesting, is Joe basically says that there's 2 tricks they knew Castillo had coming in, and that he trained Corrales the entire fight not to fall for those 2 tricks. And the tricks are all based off the same thing of like Castillo jabbing to the body and then feinting like he's going for a second jab. And then that can turn into, I think it was a left hook up, or it can turn into like a quick counter right. And he had him looking for that jab and then the quick left hook all night long, and Corrales never took his glove down, even within all that crazy trading that they had. He never got caught blindly with one of those punches until round 10, which started the onion getting peeled before our eyes, and Corrales being knocked down twice, and then we remember spitting out the mouthpiece to get more time, losing the point. And by the way, that mouthpiece thing, how did Corrales learn that? Because Acelino Popo Freitas did that to him in their title fight 2 years earlier, and it was like a big moment, and it lost him a point, and it, bought that time. So for Joe to deliver that line, which is like disappointed dad going, I told you all camp, he's got one punch that could get you in trouble, and you got caught with it at the worst time, so you better fucking get inside on him now. Damn, right? Like, damn. So sometimes it's like that layer of disappointment that creates the ultimate soundbite in that moment. But there have been many. There really have been many. And, obviously on the UFC side, I mean, what's going to ever be a better one than the one Leon Edwards had before round 5? But there's been many in boxing, just like at the right moment, the right time. A moment I love too, at the end of the Berto fight for Mayweather, which he had the fight firmly in hand, and he had always had that hot and cold relationship with his dad, right? Because his dad went to jail right when Floyd was coming up in the, about to turn pro, and Uncle Roger trained him, and there was always jealousy, and Floyd controlling everyone's money as like, the true star of the family, I'm sure created weird relationships, but it was him and his dad just exchanging, how proud they are of each other and how much they love each other. And it's like that. You never saw that come out of the Mayweather. So that was certainly a, real quick aside here. Brody Moret, that Dan Rayfield story about Popo Freitas was great. Yeah. So check out on the BCX channel, the 20 questions I did with Dan Rayfield, in which I forced him to tell what I think is his greatest story about how he named his cat after Popo Freitas, and then after Freitas lost a huge fight, a brawl, war, by kind of asking out at the end of it. And then he calls in Dan Rayfield to the hotel room, and the scene going on there, from like naked wife to people partying, doing karaoke over here, to Freitas on the bed with the black eyes and cover, and him ushering Dan in, and the conversation they had is a wild story, but check that out. Popo Freitas, by the way, Acelino Popo Freitas, the former Brazilian born, what was he, featherweight champion, had those very memorable fights with, Argentina's Barros. Remember that dude, that wild man with the shaved head and the thing, and fights with Corrales, Castillo, that whole era of those guys, Casamayor, nicknamed Popo because that's the sound it would make when he would milk from his mother's nipple, a tactic in Brazil that he employed until the age of 13, folks. Got milk? Yeah, yes, he does. Yes, he does. He does. That's a Foley right there. That became his nickname. That's wild. It's wild. Brody back at it. BC, which Diego Corrales fight was better? The one he had. All right. Okay. Wow. That, I mean, come on. I mean, I probably deserve that for the Ngannou joke. Maybe that is the difference. Maybe your boy BC loves the box, loves to protect it, loves to go, oh, it's not that gross. And then in the MMA loves to be like, see, grossest sport ever. Maybe there is some of that built-in bias there. We'll do awful jokes in MMA. We won't do them in boxing. No, I'll do them in boxing too. All right. There you go. Freitas was awesome though, by the way, Brody, but you backed me into a dark corner right there. Great question though. NYM, the New York Mets, they're back. Thank you for this. Luke is my GOAT, says NYM. But what was up with him giving 315 a B+ grade on pregame preview? This card is aggressively mid, C- at best, and that's the general consensus. So here's what's interesting. Now, what dictates a card being good or bad is always going to be subject to your rating system, but also which fighters on it do you care about, even if caring about them is in like a morbid way, or a they're not great, but they're really fun, like Slava Claus, or the chick that jumps into the arms afterwards. You know what I'm talking about. Fun TV fighters, okay? That can sway or play into it. I was actively trying to not be cranky and just be like, once again, a shitty card. So I got to agree. Like I bid in on this card. I like this card. It appeals to the hardcore fan in me on a few different matchups, personalities, names, but it could just as easily though be replaced with similar fights of fighters in similar cases who maybe I didn't start watching the last few fight nights early enough to see that guy's rise, and it doesn't matter to me. So that's always going to play into it. I like sometimes old vets with names still being kind of tossed in, maybe not in a Jose Aldo against the hobby way, which feels kind of wasty, but you know, it certainly changes in our strike zone. But for all the negative we've been talking, I actually felt in the moment there like B was not an awful grade, because it did have two title fights that I care about, both of which to me feel very 50-50-ish, even if the odds aren't, you know, exactly that way. And maybe I think the difference is, as I mentioned earlier, I get it if people are just like, no more women's MMA. I get it right now. It's just not a consistent high level of quality. But I do think these three fights, Grasso versus Silva, the co-main event, and even Andrade versus Jasdavicius, to me are good ass fights with interesting career arcs in there that I want to see. So when I see all the people being like, man, what the hell's Luke doing? Is he high on something? I think it's playing into that. You know, do I love that the stakes of 317 are waiting on the 315 main event? I told you why, not necessarily, but it also adds to it. Let me get this door here. Reg, why don't you talk to the people? Just no butthole. You know, we need a Reggie counter because he'll come in and out 8 times in a podcast. This guy, you know, it's what he wants all the time. So if it falls into where you are in your hardcore strike zone, I think it's a B card. And it's also me finally coming to terms with where we are in the matchmaking. I'm asking for UFC 2016 cards on a regular basis when we're not in the UFC 2016 era. The rules are different. The guideposts are different, all of that. Now, I still feel justified when I ask of them in their majors to have fight main event and co-main events that you just have to see, that would not take you long to explain to a casual why this could reignite their fandom. I feel like it's a sin, and it's offensive when they rest on their laurels for those. You want to go to Salt Lake City and put out whatever, I'm still going to watch it. I'm working. This is fine. Let's go. But you go to MSG, you go to IFW. Heck, you go back to Montreal for the first time since 2015. You got to try. I guess to me, this was the minimum of trying that I'm going to accept, because I like the 2 title fights. And in a lot of these in-between fights, I'm like, yeah, man, I'm kind of into this. But I'm accepting that on a curve based upon the current method of what we expect. And what my expectations are on seemingly non-important pay-per-views are that they're going to punt. They're going to do whatever they want. They're going to put out fight night quality on the pay-per-view. So within that very dystopian Back to the Future Part 2 way of looking at life, this might actually be a B or B plus. Let's be fair right now. But compared to a good year, no, you're right. It's like there's no local stars in the main or co-main. You got 2 French speakers on the card, but they're from France. You know, you got a couple Canadians sprinkled under there, but it doesn't have that one commercial star that you're like, holy crap, I got to see this. I mean, it's aggressively lacking that. This would not be a card that I would have been able to, you know, had I wanted to try to argue to my bosses to pay for a trip to cover in person. No, this ain't one of those. So my expectations are already low, even though I do feel like this is, there's almost, is it an ignorance thing, or is it we don't care, this is not the battle we're fighting anymore? But to go to Montreal with a card like this, and then to see these seat maps that it doesn't feel like it's going to be a sellout, in knowing that that audience hasn't had a card since 2015, you get what you pay for here now. You did it to London and they spoke. Is this Montreal speaking? Now I can get behind that. I can get into that because the customer should have a voice. It should affect them. It should matter. So yeah, they're either don't care or they don't know anymore. That's where we're at. And I almost just want the truth, right? Just tell me straight up. Like I almost would love if Dana could just somehow get on a Nelk Boy podcast and be like, man, you know, I got all these haters. And instead of just being like, fuck the haters, fuck the media, they're evil, we don't trust them, we're going to put them in the upper deck. But to actually go, you know what? They got one thing wrong about me. I still do care about the fight game and the fights and making badass matchups. But they got to understand in this era with this ownership, our priorities are a little bit different company-wise. And, you know, he would never do this. In fact, you know, it would be a bad look if he spoke this honestly, obviously. It would be a bad look to his employers. But I think we'd go from like Dana White's lying because he's talking to let's hear what Dana has to say if he could be a little bit more human in that regard. He'd never do it, but I'd love to know. Like, are you handcuffed? And this is where the, you know, the board tells you this is what we got. This is what it is. You can show up or you can go to that $10 million poker tournament. It's up to you. Or is this guy hustling and thinking, I'm putting forth a great product and we're making money. Man, these people at home don't know shit. So screw them. And the media, they're even worse. So Turkey, take care of them. Okay, that part was a little aggressive. All right, that part, you know, at least jail them. Put them in Tutu's house over there at the, you know what I mean? All right, that was also, I got to take that back. That was also, there we go. All right. Let's keep the questions going. All right. Nando, thank you, brother. Nando's here. This guy shows up on Inside the Box. By the way, I forgot to say it. Did you not see us on Tuesday? Rafe Bugs, your boy BC, going inside the box, going ham on Times Square and Cinco de Mayo in Riyadh. Get some of that if you're interested. Barrios, I'm assuming you're talking about Mario A. Jabroni. I didn't say that. I like Mario Barrios. You know, he's just been a wild card lately. I think the Bob Santos reunion is going to be a net plus for him. But I do think there are limitations in how much he wants to try to box that take away from his ability on the other side as more of a puncher and an aggressive mover. I do think sometimes he's having identity issues and trying to figure out exactly who he is. And maybe that's what showed up in the Abel Ramos fight. Maybe Ramos just fought his ass off in front of 93 million people, right? Like maybe something like that happened too. I don't know. Is Maypac 2 the real endgame? Wow, that's a great question. Because you do, to be fair, since the two of them fought 10 years ago this month, Mayweather Pacquiao, 10 years ago this month, the biggest fight of all time, still. And still. I mean, was it culturally bigger than Ali Frazier 1 or Schmeling Lewis 2? No, but, you know, commercially, good Lord. 5-year soap opera to build in. Ever since that fight happened and was a disappointment to the casuals, and I understand, especially at that price tag, after that much of waiting. Did we expect Manny to have a bum shoulder and then need to go in salt water to miraculously cure it? No. He also got disciplined by Floyd's right hands. You better believe that. It's true. A lot of people have been saying since then, is there any iteration where we see these two again? I think I just saw like 2 months ago, there was like some talk heating up on Twitter. Not like really heating up, but enough where you're like, wait, is this a reputable account? Is there any facts behind this? I don't know. It obviously would have to happen in a good situation, meaning Manny, I guess either Manny pulls the upset, or let's say there's a situation where Manny loses, but like loses with his head held high, loses 8-4, 7-5 on the scorecards, but like head held high, dude. That guy is still ferocious. He's still got it. He's still trying to win. He just inspired us and won us over. Is that the bridge to that fight happening? And would anyone care? It's been a long time. It's been 10 years. Would anyone care? I don't know. B, would it be a real fight? Would anyone care if it wasn't a real fight? I feel like that could change a lot of the care level. If Floyd was putting the O on the line, I mean, it's also old guys. We're two old guys, neither of whom have been active. But even in an extreme bastardized version, we know, and the same goes for Floyd versus Conor, in any form, even in a sad form, it's going to churn the most of what it's capable of churning. But what if Manny kind of looks the part again for an old guy and you're like, man, let's just get these two famous people back in together. Is it possible? I wouldn't guess that is the apparent all hands on board goal at the moment, but I also wouldn't doubt that there's thought of like, is there a market we could pull that off? Would everybody want it? You know, I think it'd have to be a real fight though. It would. Because it's different when you're doing like circus Jake Paul against Tyson, who shouldn't be in there. But guys in their 40s who still have something, more often than not, it's going to disappoint and look gross. But you obviously have a much higher ability to F around and get a night of magic, a night of, yeah, they're old and these are different circumstances and terms, but it's just great to see them in there again. And they kind of put on a show. I mean, the odds are probably against that you'll ever see it. And then even more that it would ever be like a full, great, entertaining product. But crazier things have happened here. I mean, imagine if Manny goes in there and upsets him and then calls out Floyd. I mean, if you're Rolley, are you sitting there going, I just beat Ryan Garcia? No asterisks. Yeah, history might say, yeah, but that was the fight where Ryan was off the thing and he was out a year. Like, but or it might not. We might just go, yeah, Rolley beat Ryan Garcia in Times Square. If this is the revival we're talking about, and I know this is some gas station fare coming at you, could you imagine if Pacquiao upsets Barrios, wins the WBC welterweight title, then Rolley gets the next shot on pay-per-view on PBC, and BC's calling it? This is where we're at. This is where it is. It's wild. All right. It's wild. Okay. I hear evidence of Reggie trying to leave here. I mean, UFC, get your house in order. BC, get your cats in order. All right, please. Let's hear from Rafe real quick.
A message to Brian Campbell. Do not ask me what is on the USB stick.
Yeah, don't be like that. Please. Please. Don't ever ask. All right. Quick check on the all right. Let's get aggressive here. Let's get after it. Let's make some progress here. Back to Run Dem Cheeks. Thank you, sir, for your support of this podcast. Also, has there ever been a better overall album to dude, great call. I mean, not that it's a, fresh or new or hip line to go, hey man, the Rocky IV soundtrack's actually like kind of awesome. Like we know it's fucking awesome, badass, and among the best of all time. And it just somehow took these oddball songs that largely probably wouldn't have worked on their own and just put them together around the common theme of, beating the Cold War through an impossible boxing match for free in Moscow on Christmas Day to avenge my best friend's death, right? Like, yeah, okay, this is gnarly. Steroids, we got steroids, yep. And then those are the perfectly essential, over-the-top, cheesy, but manly songs about just being a man that, yes, I think we've all said that. We've all gone to the gym and effed around with this soundtrack in our Walkman or our, iPod or however we're accessing it now. And we've all hit that same epiphany of like, damn, man, I don't know if I want to do it through the PED lane and the high-end equipment that Drago had, as like a patient in the Russian experiment room, or I want to go old school in Siberia with Rocky and Apollo's trainer, Doc, right? Yeah, and Paulie, and and then eventually Adrian's going to show up. Filmed at Grand Teton National Park, by the way, including that maybe the most ridiculous scene of all time when Rocky in boots and a parka climbs a 13,000-foot mountain and yells out Drago from the top of it. But no, I don't think a movie soundtrack has ever agitated you to not agitated, but activated that button that just says, you know what, in honor of the 80s, in honor of freedom, I'm getting after this bar right here. Okay. I'm going for it. Yeah, you're right, Joe. You're right. Speak it. Speak it. We hit that one. Thank you, sir. Remix, what do you got for me? Teo, oh boy, yeah. Teo dropping the hard R. I get he's trying to be funny. Not even a week from being the only good fighter on main card. It doesn't do himself any favors at all. If you missed it, video out there with Teo talking trash. I think in the direction of Terrence Crawford, or am I mistaken this? And was it Haney? And dropped the hard R again. And then when people did come out, and this time it was more people than usual, like kind of being like, all right, enough of this. We've had enough of this, right? Like white or black, like we've had enough of this. And then now Teofimo saying, what did he say? What was the lie? I forgot. I was, ding, 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 did a ding, ding. It's laughable, but this has gone too far. Whether you're like of the belief of like, let's get this out of there completely, or even you're of the belief of stop wringing your panties over it. This is the fight game. They do nonsense all the time. It's what men do. Even within that, like he kind of dodged a bullet last round in terms of not being canceled, which doesn't really happen in boxing, even if you get arrested for something. And also being like, well, yeah, it's wrong, but also Hispanics in the hood kind of talk like that. So that's okay. No. Or even he's only trying to get attention to get these fighters mad at him because he wants to do super fight after super fight. And some people can go, yeah, all right, that sucks the way he's handling it, but I want to see those super fights. Look, in the end, could we just stop? Like he kind of got through that without anybody jumping him or without, you know what I mean? Like you kind of dodged that already. Like, let's just stop. Teo, it was the good Teo again against Barbosa in terms of like had control in the ring, knew what he was doing, executed, was a little cringy in the buildup, but had some comedic moments. We want to love you, Teo. You don't have to play the villain here, okay? Also, like Crawford's got a fight. He's got a fight coming up. You want to get Haney in the ring? Let's go. Let's go. Right? You want to go fight Boots at welterweight? Let's go. Now they're talking Keyshawn. We love all of this. Drop the hard R, dude. Okay? Somebody's gonna do something to you. Not me, but like, come on. What are we doing here, folks? All right. Guillermo. Hey, shout out to Guillermo right here, okay? Guillermo A, not Guillermo R, not El Chacal. Thank you for your service to this chat. BC, glad to see you survived the Wales Vagine earthquake. Yes, in San Diego recently. Inoue Tuesday fight with Nakatani next May. Okay. What's your way inkling on the fight? So this would be after Inoue, who I believe held serve and pound for pound by getting up off the canvas and then showing us exactly who he is against a motivated Cardenas, who I think too will get a big fight off of this, or big-ish, right? He'll be treated with respect. That leads to money too, by the way. But we think it's MJ, Merjan, Akhmadaliev, a fight that kind of needed to happen because he had been the guy at 120, 122. If that happens in Saudi in like a Riyadh isn't cool. We need that fight. After that, though, because he could move up to 126 and fight big names, but we're also going potentially screwing the pooch here and really reaching for it. Is it better that he hangs around for two guys, Junto Nakatani to come up from bantamweight and Bam Rodriguez to maybe by that point work his way up? Yeah, it makes a lot more sense. So I like that. Like, Inoue doesn't have to fight 4 times in a year. Let's strategically map this out. The Nakatani fight is going to be big, and I hope that's Tokyo Dome in Japan, and I hope it gets some pretty firm placement in here in the States, like on ESPN. You know, I hope it gets a real push, like it deserves to be. You know, I could see it both ways. I'm still leaning Inoue here. with the one size difference, with the, he is battle tested and he does have a complete game. Someone's going to knock his block off eventually. Someone is going to, all great, most great ones it happens to. And you can see that whether it's a combination of age or tackling his fourth division or just fighting good ass fighters, even ones that maybe don't look like killers coming in, but then fight their ass off. We're starting to see, I don't think his ceiling, but we're seeing forms of limitations because he's so aggressive. He goes after it. I think it's going to be a great fight. I'm still going to lean in away here, though. I still feel like it's not Nakatani's time yet to take this baton and this handoff yet. But I think they will see each other again because the money will linger around this, especially if this first one is a great fight. I could see a couple fight series here. Shadow 2 Bravo, can we retire fraud check? No. I mean, it is a necessary part of our game to look at heavily hyped people and respond in the moment to what we feel about their big close-ups and step-ups and opportunities. If you're saying retire the idea that we're going to count somebody out to say they're done after one big loss, yes, you got to but also that's the culture we're in terms of podcasts and news cycles and how things get reacted to and delivered. But we're also in a sport where you only see people twice a year for the most part. So you're always going to be only as good as how we just saw you. So I'd like to be a little softer on the point of actually saying they're a fraud and this proves it. But I think we can say that without saying that and just be as heavily aggressive and say, as of right now, they don't look like they have it. And I'm not sure if they're going to get it. And that's kind of the same thing. It's maybe more presented more, tiny bit more humble. But no, we're critiquers of this game. Yes, we respect losses and people bouncing back, but sometimes the losses are so shocking or gaping in terms of how it was created that you're going to get an Edmund Shabazian situation and we won't get fooled again, right? Until we do or until we don't. So there you go. I do like that Bo Nichols come back and been like, no, I'm going to be fine. And, and he's calling out the people that turned on him. Like, yeah, that this is the life cycle of it. You get criticized and in some cases you get rightfully criticized. And I think in this case, he was rightfully criticized. And now he's going to have an opportunity to completely turn everything back in his direction. And maybe this is that key wake-up call that his path needed. And he'll get an opportunity to dunk and hang on the rim against all of us if he does. I want to see fighters succeed ultimately. And I'm not saying this is like this passive aggressive, like Kevin Bacon and Sleepers going, yeah, we were just trying to tough you up. That's why we raped you in that prison. No, I wasn't. I don't mean we're just trying to toughen them up. I mean, this is the part of the equation. They go on the brightest stage for the biggest dollars in theory and try to prove themselves. And our job is to be critical of that and react to it. And, short of retiring them, short of saying they'll never do it, right? Sometimes these are necessary in my eyes, in my opinion. And you kind of weed out who's not for real and who is going to let that large chip on their shoulder be the guide in terms of figuring it out and finding it out. Tough love, 80s style. Thank you. Thank you very much. Reggie's back again. All right. We hit that one. Thank you. Signature Sounds is back here. Thank you. After Pac-Man's last performance and at his age, is he not wasting everyone's time fighting Barrios? Welterweight is desperate for unifications. I don't know about wasting everyone's time. I mean, look, if he comes back and is not fit to be in there, we're all going to be like, in hindsight, for all players involved, what are we doing here? What just happened? But Pacquiao hasn't been active, and he has had a way of fooling us in the past. The odds are not against it happening, but I do struggle, even with my ties to PBC, to be like, automatically, this is a debacle. Why are we doing this? That division it's finally got a little bit of life to it with Boots unifying, with Brian Norman looking like a player, but it's still a division that's developing, that's coming along. And if this is a situation where PBC can benefit from this and grow and make a big fight. It is in a lot of ways good for the division. And I'm wondering if Rolley's fighting the winner regardless. That could be very interesting. We'll see. I hope Pacquiao lives up to some form of what he can do in there without getting hurt. I guess the point I've been trying to get to this whole show, but never make it because I end up in this traffic rotary of my own thoughts, is that I always knew this would be the road Pacquiao would go, like to a detriment, right? Like the Roy Jones thing. Roy Jones just had so much talent that even a thoroughly washed or a washed twice over version of him who's just hanging on for the love of the game. And it did get dark at the end. And there were interviews he did, like the one with Bryn Jonathan Butler, where he's almost talking romantically about dying in the ring. Like, this is how it has to end. No, that part went on too long. But the idea that somebody who had just unnatural physical gifts had such a lead on everybody else, those are the type of guys that live this gimmick, that love fighting so much, that it's who they are, it's their identity, that they're going to have the opportunity to linger longer and probably will need to be physically removed from the sport when it's all said and done, because they're going to be able to do it longer than most because they are a freak of nature and a one of one. And they're also, not going to believe in their own disrepair. They are just wired in a special way that if it's even possible between even PEDs and just belief, if anyone can do it, I do think it's Manny. I've always felt like he's going to be a guy that boxes into his 50s, even if it's off TV for nothing, and probably shamelessly gets the most out of his name. But I think for him, it's more like, who the heck else am I? Yes, Manny is a politician. Yes, he's a humanitarian. Yes, he's a, full-time celebrity who's lived a very public life, whether you agree with all of his, sort of political takes or leans or whatever. I think it's been a net plus, the Manny Pacquiao experience in boxing, like without question. And this guy just loves the game too much, that he's always going to believe he's got a shot to show us something special that we didn't think could happen. And 4 years is a lot. 46 is a lot, but he wasn't taking a lot of L's in between there, even with that exhibition against Anpo at middleweight. That was sort of like, oh, wow, Manny didn't train for that. If he trains for that, could he be oddly competitive? It's possible. And that's why they're making it, because it's going to make money. But it also can be a really compelling sports story here that I'm tentatively willing to give it a big try and see where we're going with this. All right. Alan W., thank you for joining. Thank you for contributing there. Manny, Duran is another one of those guys who had sort of that 9 lives at the end that, he's been hanging on too long, and he's up at another weight class, but he also might win this. Or did you see that last performance out of him? Or, oh my God, he just upset Iran Barkley. Like this is the kind of stuff that would happen for him too. All right. Hold on 1 second. We got to finalize this. Sydney Frankenstein back at it. On the other end, what's the worst corner speech? Unfortunately, it's and we mocked it a lot in boxing, and now he's passed. So R.I.P. Tim Lane, who was the trainer of Chris Algieri. But the game plan that he got Chris Algieri to agree to in the pay-per-view loss to Manny Pacquiao, and the timing of the interview with him right before Algieri got knocked down hard by Pacquiao, of Tim Lane telling the ringside interviewer, like, we gave away the first 4 rounds on purpose. And now round 5 coming up, where I'm going to let him out of his cage. I'm going to let him, he listens to me well. I'm going to let him out of his cage, and you're going to see. Not only was that a comical decision of a strategy in hindsight, especially since Algieri's never been a puncher, it really just became amplified as one of the most infamous corner moments, of modern era time. I think rather than when we say the opposite, like rather than a specific speech that either was mistimed or didn't make any sense, or I mean, I guess, there's not like there's these inspirational moments have an instant failure brother to them. I guess you could identify Robert Alcazar telling Oscar De La Hoya to, that he had it in the bag against Trinidad and to move constantly and almost give away, down the stretch. Yeah, we've seen moments like that. I actually thought Bill Haney was, even though the Devin Haney fight against Lomachenko, I thought Lomachenko won, but I've never felt like you could damn that win. The 3 judges thought Haney won. He fought great. I'm okay. That's a win in the book ultimately for Haney. But I thought Bill Haney in the corner was over his head and didn't have the advice at the right time or the right tone at the right time and seemed kind of overwhelmed and lost a little bit. And almost like Devin was the more patient professional in that moment. I wouldn't say it's the worst of all time, but that's a recent one that certainly jumps out at me. I mean, all-time worst corner performances, you're certainly going to go with the Team Tyson in Japan against Buster Douglas and Aaron Snowell and the guys in the corner, not even having the swelling tools and using a rubber glove / condom to blow it up with ice water. I mean, yeah, that's what we're talking about right there. All right, Jay is here. Could be a Jay Allen signing. Could be Jay Paquette. We don't even know what's going on here. But what up, BC? Had to miss a few rambles due to my daughter AZ being born. Yeah, that's Jay Allen in the house. Congratulations on the addition. You had shared that over Instagram DMs. I back. Today is her inaugural Campbell's Rambles with many more to come. Shout out to AZ. Great basketball name right here in Connecticut, by the way. AZ Fudd, UConn star. But named after Jennifer AZ, the Stanford legend. But shout out to little AZ there. Welcome to some rambles here. Hopefully she didn't hear the Ngannou joke. That's really where we're at right now. All right. We're gonna have to wrap this up aggressively here. Appreciate all the love from everybody. Alan W. Yep, we hit that. Thank you. Weigh-ins were comical. Inept Montreal commission. Yeah, I saw that Aldo versus Hobby is now a featherweight fight. They were both trending to miss weight. There seems something weird about that. Nochi 1985. Probably more of the second one there. Yeah, there you go. Very clandestine. You know what I'm saying? Soup King 89. What's up? Yeah, I have the faith. They're going to win the series. I'm telling you, Paul Westphal style. They're going to win the series. But this is this is bad. This is frustrating. Also, the Knicks are good. The Knicks are pretty good. Knicks are pretty damn good, right? Like they earned it. But this has not. They didn't. The Celtics just didn't feel like they opened the playoffs with this like lightning rod of they're going back all the way. I read the rumblings, heard the rumblings, and then saw these 2 games play out. But I'm not going to panic. I don't panic in these spots. Okay, I panic a lot in these spots. All right, Alan W. He might, brother. That's why we watch. As long as we're telling ourselves we hope it's not gross, that's why we watch. All right, quickly here. Shadow to Bravo. What is Bad Company's best album and why? Is it Straight Shooter's good? I believe that's their second one, right? But their self-titled first one is an all-timer. Fantastic. Like sometimes I feel like they're a little overrated, whatever, but because they're just straightforward rock and roll, but a really cool band and first album at the right time. Paul Rogers Rules comes from Free, the band. Second album was a decline, but still pretty damn solid there. And then they kind of just basically disappeared, right? Or at least from that level. LNW, where is MK today? This is MK today. We obviously had the pregame preview on Wednesday. Check it out with Chuck Mindenhall, UFC 315. And finally, from Remix, thank you. What is your favorite spoof movie? Mine is All the Austin Powers Meet the Spartans. I haven't seen the latter. Austin Powers took the idea of a spoof movie to another level and created something unto itself. So that's right in that discussion. Spaceballs has got to be right there as well. I hate to say it. Has Spaceballs comedic style aged well? Like it still works at family parties, but I feel like it, I don't know. I just feel like the last time I saw that movie, it didn't hit like it always had, but an all-time spoof. I even like the first Scary Movies. I know that became like a ridiculous endless series, but I certainly had respect for that, but it's hard to beat. It's hard to beat Austin Powers in that genre. All right. Got to wrap it up. Got to head off to a meeting. Thank you for playing. Appreciate you filling in this time in the normal MK spot. Let's go though. Check out Inside the Box from Tuesday. Rafe Bugs and I going deep on that thing. You got Morning Combat's pregame preview that happened on Wednesday. Chuck Mindenhall and myself. and you got a little time. You got a little time with your boy BC. Checking off for now, though. Thank you. Take care of yourselves. We'll be back next week. One love. Fights. Let's enjoy them this weekend. There we go. All right. Thank you.